ついてら銀紙の星が揺れてら誰もがポケットの中に
G'day everybody, and welcome to another episode of Anime Roulette, where myself and my dear friend V here subject ourselves to whatever the gods determine our fates to be. And last week we got lucky because we rolled Samurai Champloo. Thank the gods after the dumpster fire we got last time, which, for those who are joining on this episode, why I don't know, but for those of you joining, we subjected ourselves to a show called Fight Ipatsu Yuden-chan, which was god-awful.
And I committed at the end of the episode. This is now my ghost reporting.
Yeah, yeah, this is ghost. But we actually are not talking about that dumpster fire today. We're talking about a majestic, in fact, one could say classic anime, which is also a kind of dumpster fire, but a magnificent one.
It's a dumpster fire in a way where they know what they're doing.
Yeah, it is an intentional. It is a dumpster fire of arson. It is an arson dumpster fire. Anyway, yeah. As we all know, my name's Anime Anarchy, otherwise known as Pac-Man or Peter or whatever you want to call me. I mean, quite frankly, you can call me anything at this point, and my opposite number here is V/Evie/very, very angry man on Twitter.
I'd say that's a pretty accurate statement. I engage in the arts of not giving a fuck and simultaneously giving too much of a fuck, and also the scanlation world. And with that being said, I'd say let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So Samurai Champloo, a classic. Shinichiro Watanabe, the GOAT, as it were. The man responsible behind the show. Responsible behind the show? What the hell is that sentence? Responsible for the show that currently got its big smash hit live action on Netflix, Cowboy Bebop. However, he made an arguably, some people say, better show, although I don't know about that, Samurai Champloo, which is what we're talking about today. And, well, the thing about Samurai Champloo...
Folks, you may not have heard this, but Samurai Champloo is pretty fucking good.
Yeah, it's very good. It is critically acclaimed. This show is...
This is a show where, like, us, like, gushing over it is just going to seem sort of hackneyed. So we're sort of going to be going around the circles a bit here to try and sort of find ground that we can talk about. Stuff that we found, I guess, more subjective nature stuff rather than being like, oh my god, the soundtrack, phenomenal. The fucking characters, great. The fucking interactions, amazing. Because, like, otherwise we're just going to end up being the latest IGN reviewers. And
yeah. Well, I mean, I will say that I'm a bit more critical of Samurai Champloo than I am of Watanabe's other works. For example, my favorite Watanabe work is Terror in Resonance, a show which nobody watches, and people...
Good fucking reason!
Hey... I'll fucking fight you, Ivy. I will fight you. It's a masterpiece. It's got fucking commentary, and it's fucking okay. Look, that show. We can all agree that show is pretentious as fuck. And in fact, in fairness, so is this one.
So let's get up its ass, but in a way that makes it fun. Terror in Resonance goes a little bit too far in that.
Yeah, look.
Enjoying itself too much.
Yeah, it's kind of like, imagine if Makoto Shinkai made a movie about Makoto Shinkai making movies. It's kind of like Terror in Resonance is on global politics. It's
That's just Bakuman. We're just describing already existing franchises.
Yeah,
that's just the Death Note guys writing about how great being a mangaka is.
No, okay. So in all seriousness, we should talk about Samurai Champloo, because that's actually what we are here to talk about. But actually, talking about other anime...
I will fucking hit you!
No, but talking about other anime in regards to Samurai Champloo, or rather, like, using Samurai Champloo as a metaphor. It's kind of like how people use, like, Pulp Fiction with Quentin Tarantino. It's kind of like the same thing in a weird way, because Samurai Champloo is kind of like an anime about anime of that kind of make. It is... Okay, I'm going to open up with my first point about Samurai Champloo. We're not doing the standard episode-by-episode format because A, we'll be here all week, and B, fuck, man, doing a deep dive on those episodes would just be wow.
Yeah, it got to the point where, especially for some of the filler, like, because like this is a show that's built around an adventure format, and I noted really early on, and it makes me feel like a little bit like a Twitter post, but like it's very similar to the same sort of format of adventure style as like an Avatar: The Last Airbender, where it's like you have these big canon, and like not canon, but like big plot episodes interspersed by episodes where pretty much the same thing keeps happening in different ways. You know, Fu gets kidnapped. The boys have to look for work as like bodyguards or like doing some stupid shit. Like that's just the driving force behind it. And I like that here. And I think it works well. I feel like, and this is something I think we've discussed off stream that we're probably going to disagree on. I feel like it captures the sense that they're on this sort of almost futile, we don't really know what the fuck we're doing quest across Japan, especially at a time where there's no bullet train. You can't bullet train from the south of Japan all the way to fucking Kyushu.
Like, there's not
These
even
people are walking to fucking Nagasaki.
Dude, that's it. Given that Japan is basically half mountain, Japan is a pile of mountains next to the ocean with the occasional flat bit, which is where all the cities and farms are. Like, I mean, seriously, there's a reason why terrace farming was so common in the West, in like western parts of Japan and like fucking East Asia in general. Like, it's just mountains, bro, and they're walking this entire thing. So it makes sense. But the way you've put it there is, you know, calling this show, like, the name just occurred to me. We're fucking watching art house One Piece is what we're watching. Basically, we're watching art house One Piece. Like, we've got this grand objective, the samurai who smells of sunflowers. We don't know how long it's going to take us to get there. We don't even know where the fuck we're going to start us. We've just sort of picked a direction and walked in it. They're like, hey, look, there's Tokyo. We'll just walk there.
This is why you needed to watch episode 12. You did skip episode 12, which was a filler episode of clips to like sort of recap. But in episode 12, it was revealed they only went to Edo because Fu had vaguely heard that the samurai who smelled like sunflowers had gone to Edo at some point. Yeah. That's all she had to go on to go to Edo for. And they fucking went through so much shit just to get to Edo on a hunch. Not even a hunch, a whiff of a hunch.
Yeah, like, it's one of those adventures, you know, like, I'm going on an adventure. You know, they start off. Like, this whole thing starts because the two antagonists, or protags, or, I mean, anti-heroes, you could call them. Self-tagonists, like, anti-heroes. Like, both of them, like, Gin and Mugen, like, meet in this tea house where Fu happens to work, get into a fight, kill the local warlord's men, and because it's not the Sengoku Jidai anymore, they are immediately hauled up before the man. You can't just fucking murder people anymore. So they get captured by the police, and then Fu tries to break him out of prison. Fails.
But she tries, and that's what matters.
Then they work their own way to get out, and then Fu comes in clutch, and like they escape. And she basically bullshits. She flat out bullshits these two trained killers into helping her find this bloke that she only barely knows about. Like,
and
you know,
oh my god, can I just say, it's been so long since I've watched Samurai Champloo. It's got to be at least 6 years since I've watched this.
Yeah, same for me.
I had lost a lot of the I definitely didn't remember like 90% of anything.
I didn't remember anything, like fucking nothing.
Any shit. Struggled with the main plot as well. But man, fucking just the fact that like Mugen and Jin are just killers. Like, at no point does the narrative go, they only kill because they do it because of like tortured reasons or this. No, Mugen kills because he's good at it, and Gin kills because he can. So like,
it's kind of funny. They are literally a pirate and a Ronin working together with this random chick they picked up in a tea house, which they are directly responsible for burning her job down. It's like the first episode
and most importantly, completely Well, I mean, they're not actually responsible, but they set off a chain of events that does lead to this tea shop burning down.
Yeah, but it's, you know what it is? You know what it fucking is? This came out at the same time, so I think it might be just something that was going on in 2005. But fucking, it's like the reboot of Doctor Who. It starts the same way. These cunts, excuse me, these people burn down her job, and so her first instinct is to find these random killers and go on an adventure with them. Like, hi, it's the same thing, you know. Hi, I'm a mystical time traveler from outer space who's like slaughtered millions of aliens, or hi, we're a pirate and a Ronin who's slaughtered hundreds of people and burnt down your job. Let's just go on an adventure to God knows where with no context or no plan, just sort of head that away. It's such a ridiculous plot when you think about it. It really is.
It is, especially because like there's the three sort of like parts to it. Getting to Edo, the first being the first, getting to Edo, the Edo period, like the spending time in Edo arc, then getting to Nagasaki. And then also that bit where they're in Kansai, where the narrative feels it's important to tell us that they're in Kansai. It's like, Kansai chapter. And I was like, okay, sure.
You know, the thing about this show is there are very few, like, and you can say it from a genre standpoint, you can say it from like a thing standpoint. What the hell is that, Peter? You idiot. But you can say it sort of from like, we've been anime fans for years, and so we can notice these patterns, these characteristics, or whatever. Samurai Champloo is a show which is so obvious. It oozes late 90s, early 2000s. It oozes it. It gives off a very similar feeling, to put it this way, it gives us a very similar feeling to Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. It does this thing where it is this campy boys and girl on an adventure, on a grand quest to achieve some big goal right at the end, right? Standard thing. Actually, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood's a pretty good comparison. But at the same time, you've got, most of the time, it's literally just the lads on tour, you know what I mean? Like, oh, we're going to a town, we don't have any money, we're hungry, so we have to do an odd job to get money so we can buy food and a house for the night, because we're going on a long journey, right? And then shenanigans ensue. And then, out of nowhere, just like the other shows of the period, like with Cowboy Bebop as well, out of nowhere, you'll just have this absolute banger of a plot-heavy, super serious, dark and gritty episode. And, you know, it's one of those shows where I think it does, like, this masterfully, really. I'm just about to go, oh no, have we fallen off the rails and gone on the filler arc to nowhere, and then right as you're about to start getting bored, it right hooks you with something insane and pulls you right back in. And it does that like 5 times. And it's incredible. Like, it just is. Like, I find myself at the start of every episode being like, this isn't very interesting. This isn't going. It's speeding up, and then suddenly it hits around the halfway point after the title card cuts in the middle of the episode, and then it starts building up speed and developing. And all of a sudden, Samurai Champloo will be like, should I put my foot down now? Like, okay, right now I will, and wham, just off it goes.
Yeah, and when it fucking goes, it fucking goes.
Oh, it goes.
Like, those episodes where, like, shit kicks off, yes, love it.
Oh, the shit kicking off is the best thing about the show.
Like, yeah, and I really like it. I really like those episodes as well. I also like that, like, even in the, like, fillery sort of episodes, there is stakes in a lot of them. The later episodes that we're going to talk about, the later like filler episodes, that's a different story. They're insane. They basically just took drugs and wrote those ones. So that's a completely different kettle of
Although
fish.
drugs are a theme in this show.
Drugs are a theme in this show. There's at least 2 episodes which involve mass drug use.
Yeah. Actually, that leads into our first thematic discussion, I suppose. And we want to get this out the way. Or at least I'm thinking about it, and I was thinking about this movie earlier today as well. This show and Pulp Fiction really do have a lot of crossover in the sense that you get a show which is, there's no other word for it. It is the embodiment of style, quotation marks. You know what I mean? Like, Samurai Champloo is style.
Stylistic from start to finish.
It is like style. Like, it is aesthetic. Just, that is, it doesn't actually have an aesthetic. It just is aesthetic. Everything in this show oozes personality. Everything.
And even, like, it's even something that comes down to the very, like, artistry of the actual show itself. Like, the fact that, like, the world it sets out is so grimy. It's so slimy. It's sexual. It's, like, full of these repulsive individuals that you would never want to spend time around. So many of these people are fucking horrible.
Yeah, they're garbage, yeah.
All they do is spend time in, like, brothels and, like, you know...
They're basically eating at takeaway restaurants all the time. They're in brothels. All the people they're getting involved with are sordid characters, like corrupt local lords, yakuza gangs, you know, freaking.
And I think this is something that, like, I really enjoyed that they did at the very start of the show, where they're like, "This show is not a historical portrayal."
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Now shut. Like we care. Now shut up and enjoy the show.
There's literally at the start.
From that point on, they didn't give a fuck. Like, there's vague aspersions to keeping this to a sort of mid to late Edo period, like, timeline.
Yeah.
But there is also a guy with a 6-shot revolver.
I mean, this is the thing that I love about Samurai Champloo while simultaneously hating it, right? Because as a history nerd, every single ounce of my being hates half the shit in this show. But at the same time, I just love what they've done is they've done that retro-futuristic aesthetic that they had in the 1980s. Especially, and have you noticed the one amazing thing, and you've probably got it in your fucking reef of notes, all of the Yakuza and those graffiti guys later on, every single one of them, and including the baseball team captain, right? All of them, in every single instance, all of the sort of thuggy punk kind of dudes that you run across in this show are all modeled off of late 80s Japanese biker gangs. All of them have, like, crazy jackets.
I mean, even the way that they speak, they're speaking... Okay, we should set this up. So... Did you end up watching the English dub?
Yes, I watched the dub. I watched it in dub.
Okay, you watched the English dub, I watched the Japanese dub. So I'm going to take the lead on this one just for the Japanese side of things. So when they speak in the Japanese version, they are speaking exceptionally coarse Japanese. And it's something that I associate the sounds with, you know, the language, the sounds, with, you know, Yakuza, not so much Yakuza tropes as it is like delinquent series. You know, these are like, you know, like high school delinquents sort of.
Saki, like, from Zombieland material. Saga, like the biker gang kind of, nande desu like, what the fuck? Like, they're slurring the word.
Can I just say, I heard my amateur Japanese studying house was just sitting there, and every time I heard "Kuroshita" in an episode, there was just like a little ding in my brain every fucking time. They said it so much in this show.
Kill him. Just kill that fuckhead. Just kill him. Like,
it fucking killed me. And I really liked, and this is something that I really liked, was that the writers really toyed with the varied terrain of Japan, especially in the Edo period. Because obviously, during the Edo period, the cultural crush hadn't happened yet. So, like, people speaking, you know, Ryukyu or, like, Ainu isn't unheard of. Obviously, they didn't actually have anyone speaking Ainu, but there is an Ainu character.
There's an Ainu character, and of course, Mugen is from the Ryukyu, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of amazing. I liked the fact that they were there.
Oh my god, that was such a fucking huge moment. I fucking freaked out when when Mugen was talking to the Ainu guy whose name I'm not even gonna bother trying to remember what that guy's name was, like Ora something. when they were talking about music, and there was like, oh, it's so strange. That's like a song that I listened to as a child, because a lot of like, you read a lot of like anthropologists, and they think that like the same cultural displacement that drove the Ainu to the north also drove a similar group of people to the South Islands, which is why there would be similarities between language and music for them. And I was like, wow, in a show that just randomly decides that whatever goes, goes.
Yeah, like they are not afraid to take historical liberties. I mean, just talk about that one episode, like, which is actually an episode I really enjoyed. Like, I swear they ran into like great teacher Onizuka's 15 times great grandfather who runs into Mugen. Just it's like, you want to be a real gangster? You're a fucking loser unless you know how to read. Do you want those cunts out there to laugh at you? You got to learn to read, bro. It's like,
or even just the fact that they did that joke with Mugen's name fucking took me the fuck out when they were like, it's an infinity symbol. I was like, that's fucking incredible.
Oh god, that's great.
And when they
loved it.
woke up and he'd written over every single item,
it's great
in the building.
It's great.
And he hadn't written it. He hadn't written the kanji for their names. He just wrote everything in hiragana. Incredible.
It's
absolutely
beautiful.
Fucking incredible.
But that episode was actually one of my favorites. I think also the fact that the great sword school that Gin was trained in turned out to be a hangout for delinquents, and they have a graffiti battle. Like,
can I just say,
actual graffiti battle?
Jin as a character, he started off, I was like Mugen all the way. I love this dude. He's crazy. He's fucking nuts. He's filthy. He's grimy. I love how out of control this dude is. And Jin just came off as a little empty.
Yeah, he did.
It does come a lot with that kind of character. It's very hard to write a compelling, quiet character because they're not speaking a whole lot and they're not giving you a whole lot to chew on. But fuck me if Jin didn't come throughout the show to be one of my fucking faves. I love the later stuff that goes on with
100%, because it's such a great character. Hell. It's when it gets filled in. Jin's backstory was actually the one I was most interested in. Like, Mugen's was cool, but it was Jin I wanted to know about. And the fact that they sort of filled it in, and eventually, when all the pieces lined up, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing.
When that all came together, fucking yes.
Yeah, because, like, okay, one thing I will say about this show, and say I like about this show, is the fact that it goes from this sort of campy adventure anime, and then all of a sudden, it will turn into those really, really cheesy but intense, like, you know, late 60s, mid 70s samurai dramas. Like, they'll have, like, the sort of Wild West standoff with the katanas just sort of being angled aggressively, and they'll be like, you know...
And they do the one strike.
They'll do the one strike, and it's all cool, and, like, real Seven Samurai vibes going on. You know, it's great. But at the same time... The way they handled Mugen and why he fights the way he does is really great. The fact that he's a pirate. The last minute character development on Mugen in that fight with the family of people. I really like that, by the way, that being his last hill to battle, that his past caught up with him. You know, and the idea that one day there is going to be a battle that comes back to Mugen and he's not going to be able to win that fight. And he didn't.
You know? And he didn't. He got blown up, he got shot, he got stabbed. He technically only won because he was the only one left standing. And he didn't win, he just didn't die.
But yeah, like, to bring it back on the track of, like, the style side of things, it just... The overall ambience of the show, like the fact that every ahistorical moment was put in there with purpose. You know what I mean? And
also a lot of the time it's just, and I love this, it's something that I praise in other shows, but if you have the guts, if you're doing this kind of show and you're like, I want this to be here because it's cool, fuck yeah, dude, you fucking go in on that shit. Golden Kamuy did it, I was there for them then. Vinland Saga did it, I was there for it too. And Samurai Champloo did it, I'm fucking here for it. If you think that you can make the scene run better and you are not trying to be like, this is the most historically accurate telling of a story, fuck yeah, go fucking
dude,
nuts. It would be weird in Vagabond for this to happen, but this is not Vagabond.
And if, hey, Studio Wit, if you're watching after you're done with Vinland Saga, please make Vagabond, please. I'm begging you, please. We need an adaptation of Miyamoto Musashi's like life, because like we're talking about homie who stood on a bridge in the middle of like one of the biggest battles in Japanese history, and he's just knocking dudes out with a fucking stick. He doesn't even have a sword. He's just got a log and he's just swinging it around. This is the kind of man we're dealing with. Please make an anime of this man. But
yeah, see, if people love Mugen, think about how much they'll love this version of Miyamoto Musashi.
Like, actually, it's a good comparison, Miyamoto Musashi with Mugen, because like Musashi is the sort of half and half between Gin and Mugen, because Musashi got his big break the same way that Mugen got his big break, which is like, the finest swordsman is around, I want to challenge him. He doesn't set up a duel like throwing the glove or, you know, throwing the bamboo rod or whatever you would do in Japan. He literally like, are you that massive swordsman? It's like, yeah, defend yourself, and just fucking jumps the dude. Like, straight out the gate. Musashi won his first duel against the greatest swordsman in his area. Before the guy even drew his sword, he just walks up and shanks the guy. Okay, so like, Mugen does the same thing. He just kicks in the door and he's like, are you strong? Yeah, fucking defend yourself, bitch. Like, it's how
Which
he
is
meets
really
Gin.
funny, because we see later on, we see like a foil to Mugen in the guy that can use ki, right? Like chi, ki, whatever you want to call it. Like, and that dude is like Mugen if Mugen was even crazier, basically. Like, that dude is just Mugen if he didn't have friends.
Yeah.
That's it. That's like Mugen without friends.
Basically,
that's
yeah. Okay, so I want to go into something here, because we're covering different sections. I'm going to have to put them in chapters or something, because basically this is just a rant, because you already know the show's good. It's Samurai Champloo. You know this is good.
There's not much we can say here. We can be like, the animation looks slightly dated. It's been 15, 16 years now. Guess what? It still looks fucking dope. It looks dated, but fuck yeah, it looks fucking sick. Everyone looks ugly. Fuck yeah, I'm there for it. The stylistic ugliness, no being like every samurai was gorgeous. No, these guys look like fucking dickheads.
Yeah, like Gin looks like this weird, lanky murder droid. Mugen is just this angry
murder hobo.
Like murder hobo, yeah. Just this angry dude with a fro and a sword who's got a problem with authority. Like, and I love the thing that, you know, that thing they did in one of our lost episodes when we discussed Blood Blockade Battlefront. Like, I love the thing that they did the same thing with Fu, how when she gets a proper meal, she turns fat. And then the rest of the time, they make fun of her for being too skinny. Yeah. It's like there is an entire plot point where she avoids the fucking cops because they've heard reports of a fat girl and she's skinny as shit, but she was fat like 20 minutes ago because she had just finished eating. It was
incredible,
and it was it was a stylistic choice by the animation team too. So she was actually this big fat blob in the scene, and then the next scene she's like skinny as a rake, and the cops are like, "Have you seen this woman?" Like, no, okay, and they leave. It's just...
Actually, on that topic, like, in regards to this, it's okay. Ambulance. In like. Oh, fuck, that fucking threw me off. Hold on, we'll have to fucking fix this. So wait, can you give me what you were just saying?
What, like talking about food, getting...
Right, okay, yeah, on the topic of like uncomfy subjects, we'll pick it up from here. Pick it up. So on the topic of that sort of like the show touching on these sort of like topics, like silly topics, like, you know, Fu being fat when she eats too much food, and she like, you know, overeats, that sort of thing. I found it really funny. This is like, what, 2004, 2005?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2004, 2005 in Japan. And the way they talk about homosexuality is so fucking funny. because it's so frank compared to a lot of stuff at the time, which, either didn't mention it at all, and especially not in the historical context, even though we know historically that there was lots of homosexuality going on during the Edo period and quite open in a lot of places.
Look, dudes be boinking. It's just a thing.
Dudes be fucking. Dudes rock. Dudes rock. What can I say?
Like, I love that there was an entire thing, right? Like, in the English dub, they're a lot more crass about it, right? They weren't using slurs, but they were using, I would say, like, soft slurs and innuendo a lot of the time.
Oh, that was
because they're like, yeah, I think this guy's a bit fruity, and then Fu's just like, "You for real? You think?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like,
the funniest part of that episode in particular was when they're like, "Oh no, does he not know that it's a guy dressed as a girl?" And then he gets in and he's just over the moon about it.
It's like, oh, that's even better.
Even better. And I was like, what?
Oh, yo.
even I was like, oh, really? I see.
All I'm going to say is femboy and tomboy supremacy, boys. Let's go. Like, in all seriousness, though, like, they didn't pull punches. And you want to know what I find really impressive? And maybe this is just, as we've established, the last episode, we demonstrated what happens when it goes too far. But I would say, well, Ivy here less so than me, but I do appreciate a little bit of trash. Okay, I love a good bit of trashy stuff. Like, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as, say, High School DxD, but High School of the Dead and Food Wars, and, you know...
You've just made one of our two fans riot.
Maybe a little bit of... maybe a little bit of DxD, right? Maybe a little bit of DxD. Some tasteful Rias here and there, you know what I mean? Like, I am a connoisseur of trash, right? I do appreciate some garbage. What I find...
Okay, I like that you say this like I didn't read a manga like a week ago called, although it's the weakest and unprofitable occupation, blacksmith has become the strongest. Realized he can make anything he wants. The man started his leisurely life. That's not a book title anymore.
That's an essay. That's an essay and a synopsis. It's not a title, it's a synopsis, right? No, Ivy here reads trash because it's trash story. I enjoy and consume trash when I know it's smut. It's pure filth. Right, I am tempted to watch a good sizable chunk of anime purely because there is some titty on display, there is some ass on display, and it's beautiful. All right, and I say this, and the reason why I'm getting this topic out of the way is because it will become apparent in future episodes. And one thing that I really like Samurai Champloo for is they are very crassly sexual about a lot of things in the show. There is prostitution, there is women being sold into sex slavery, women being trafficked as sex slaves, right?
Fu becomes a prostitute like twice.
Yeah, Fu becomes a prostitute like twice. And incredibly, with all of this smutty content, the sexualization is minimal, if any. Like, I don't see much at all. The only sexualization you do get is when the woman is intentionally being a seductress. And
yeah, and in that case we're supposed to be like following the line, we're following like the line of like view from like Mugen or Jin in that case. The only time I ever was like, whoa, Fu be looking like a snack. The only time I thought that was during the baseball game where she shortens her kimono and gets into it. Like, you're with me on this, right? You're looking at Fu and you're like, Fu's been portrayed respectably and decently the whole show, even when she was... even the prostitutes themselves, when they're getting undressed ready to do their job, like, they're portrayed respectfully as far as I was saying, as far as their profession allows, but hey, it's their job, right? We are a pro-sex worker podcast, getting that out right now. Unionized brothels and strip clubs, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm getting this out of the way in case we get any swerves in the chat, bro, because if we do, get the fuck off this. Get the fuck out of here, right? Like, these girls needed a union, all right? Oh, fuck, I think they didn't need a union. They
needed to get out. They needed to get out.
They needed a fucking hit squad to come get rid of their fucking...
kill... Like, we're not saying you should kill your boss.
Let's just say there's a difference between a girl selling pictures on the internet now, willingly and of her own accord, and her being taken from her family, put in a brothel, and forced to perform sexual acts to make up
that's
debt
sex
for
trafficking.
her husband.
And
that's
one
sex trafficking.
And one thing I will love about it, in this show is that Mugen and Gin and the squad kill a lot of sex traffickers. They kill a lot of fucking sex traffickers.
They kill a lot of people. Let's just.
And most of them deserve it. And most of them deserve it. Most. Let's be real.
Although there's multiple occasions where I wrote down but Jin. But Mugen kills a lot of like authority figures and doesn't really seem to suffer a whole lot of consequences.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, again,
the funniest one being during the forest episodes.
Yeah.
Where he gets attacked by the secret police who thinks that he's the Ainu guy, and then he kills like 6 of them. They go, wait a second, are you this guy? And he's like, no, I'm not that guy, I'm this guy. And they're like, oh, well, let's fuck off. And it's like, what about these guys?
I'm glad I'm not the only one who was like, wait a minute. You don't show up, the Black Panthers don't show up to a protest, shoot half the police and be like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, sorry. You're looking for that other black man. That's fine. Everything's great. Like, God damn it. I was like that. I was like, holy shit. How the fuck did this guy get away with?
He can't keep getting away with it.
No, he can't. But he
does.
They shank the police at every opportunity, and they just keep walking. That's why the shogunate's coming to kill him. It's not because of the sunflower samurai rebellion with the Christians or whatever, which we'll get into. But like, it's not about that. It's just the fact that they've been killing cops based from fucking Edo to Nagasaki the whole way, and they haven't even got 1 star in the top left corner, right? They haven't like Liberty City PD is fucked off. They're not even interested.
They're like, fuck this shit,
dude. Like,
yeah. I think this is a good way to transition into what our favorite episodes were.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. But what have we taken away from the last segment? Oh yes, no gratuitous sexualization where it doesn't belong.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anime, can we do this again, please?
Hey, Pashone.
Yeah.
Maybe you should have done that to Miyaruko-chan, huh? Huh?
We're here to get. We're here to get scared, not horny, although there are shows for that. Hashtag,
There are shows for that. That is not the show for that. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway. Favorite episode. Why don't you take us away?
It's a tough one for me. So, I'm going to have to get my episode list up to refresh it. But if I had to pick one, and I mean just one, it would have to be... Where is it? There it is. Episode 15 would be my absolute favorite episode of Samurai Champloo. It was the one I had the most fun with. So in this episode, while they're fishing looking for lunch, they discover a big bag of counterfeit coins. And so they're like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah, we'll go out on the town and get something to eat." And of course it turns out, as we said, they're counterfeited. And they're in a brothel which a Yakuza squad is running. And can we just point out here, for all I've said about defending this show's like morality and so forth, the 2 main characters who are supposedly our sympathetic heroes have actually sought out going to a brothel. They have gone to a brothel for the purpose of doing what brothels are for. Right?
Yep.
So they've gone to spend their hard-earned cash and get some. Okay? Mm-hmm. And while there, they meet my favorite side character in the entire show. A fucking ninja undercover cop posing as a brothel worker, as a prostitute, is with Mugen. And then after Mugen, because of the actions of them finding the counterfeit money, her cover is like now no longer required because she's got the evidence she needs to go after him. So she harnesses Mugen. Like, she originally tries to beat up and kill Mugen, or at least knock him unconscious, so she can fuck off and deal with the Yakuza, right? But it turns out that he survives her fucking clubbing him in the head with a vase. And he's like, "Oh, you're into the rough stuff. I like that. This is kinky. It's getting awesome." And so she's like...
I literally wrote in my notes for episode 15, what zero pussy do to a motherfucker, and it never has zero words been spoken. Because there is many points where Megan could have said, it is not worth it to go this far to get laid. But this man is holding on for dear life at that moment. He's like, maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a chance. And at the end of the fucking episode, she's like, I am going to marry that fucking man. And I was like, yes!
That's what I'm saying, right? That's what I'm saying. This episode was fantastic. The fight scenes were top tier. The comedy was top tier. But my favorite scene in it does not have the two best characters. It doesn't have Mugen and it doesn't have the chick, right? What happens is Jean stands up and sees the Yakuza around him. And there are two girls with Jean. And the girls, even though obviously they're paid to do what they do, these are two professional sex workers and they look like dead. Like, they have had the greatest fuck of their lives. And this Chad just stands up after satisfying two professional women at the same time and just murders these guys in one swing. Like, the levels of Chad that man is on. Like,
and then the fact that they use that to slam into a, oh god, my back. Fucking took me the fuck out. This man was doing some kinky fucking shit. He was bending fucking 9 ways to Sunday, and then he killed these guys, and he's like, oh fuck, my fucking back.
Dude,
oh, God.
you are good enough in bed to give two professional working women multiple orgasms. You then stand up,
make them pretend to be happy,
and then to stand up, wipe out an entire squad of Yakuza, and then just sheath your sword, and you're just like, yep, my work here is done, and then immediately just gets taken out. It just wham, dude. Like,
okay, so we should mention at this point, obviously, like, anyone who's ever watched Samurai Champloo is aware of this, but there's like 5 total jobs in Japan, according to Samurai Champloo.
You're a restaurant owner, a Yakuza, a brothel worker,
a samurai, a brothel worker, or a pirate. That's it. That's all you got.
And variations thereupon, so pickpockets and criminals, or, you know, dojo runners. And, actually, no, incorrect. There is also teachers. There are teachers because of the Chad, the Chad that comes up later. But yeah, this episode, the main villain was fantastic. But what I love is like the Yakuza boss running the illegal counterfeiting ring, right? He has this whole squad of guys who are the best warriors, and then Mugen with this special forces chick just clean them out. This is the best fight scene in the anime. And I will defend this position. We're probably going to disagree, but this is the best fight scene in the anime. Because he's never met this woman before. He's never spoken to her before. He's literally paid her for sex just now, right? Doesn't have any context. Yet together, they just seamlessly move around each other and just clean out this entire... Like, this woman, at the end of the episode, is like, I'm going to marry that man. They're made for each other. It's written in the stars.
That being said, watching this show, I fully understand why there was such a dedicated, hardcore Fujoshi base to this show.
Oh,
the
dude.
amount of subtext between Jin and Mugen is fucking outrageous. The fact that when both of them, like, at 2 separate points, think the other is dead, and they just go fucking nuts.
Yeah,
like,
they're furious.
When Jin thinks that, like, Mugen is dead, he fucking just walks up to a dude. He doesn't even give him a warning. He's just like, dead.
Yep.
That dude was built up over 2 episodes to be this huge deal. Gone. Didn't fucking stand a chance. Just dead. Fucking gone. The same thing happens in the later episode where Jin is presumed dead and is rescued by totally not Musashi Miyamoto.
Yep.
In that episode, Mugen has the exact same response. His first thing is, the instant he puts the pieces together, he's like, oh my god, she tried to kill him, or did kill him. He goes fucking apeshit and almost dies. And then he gets back up, and then almost dies. Like, all for this. And I was like, I can totally see why Fujoshi's loved this show at the time. Fucking, I'm with you, girls. I'm with you. I'm on board. I'm here for you.
I'm with you on that.
That being said, my favorite episode was episode 11. The episode with the girl who'd been sold into a brothel and was now having to do sex work.
Yeah, that was the one that really stood out to me
Which
too.
isn't the first time they used that plot story in this anime. But this one was the best one.
Yeah, and I think it's just because, let's be real here, in the reason they make it happen so often because in Sengoku Jidai period and the Edo period in Japan, that was a big thing. Like you would sell your daughter for prostitution. Yeah,
horrible. This is that Vinland Saga scene that they didn't adapt because they thought it made Thorfinn look like too much of a cunt. Where Thorfinn sees a woman being raped by Vikings, and he just, when she begs him to help her, he just turns and walks away.
He just shrugs his shoulders.
He just shrugs his shoulders because it's just a part of like the world that he's in. And it's the same sort of thing here. Like Mugen and Jin are surrounded. Like Mugen and Jin on multiple occasions rescue girls from sex slavery, but they're totally willing to go to a brothel, knowing full well that there is a high chance that the girl that they get with is probably maybe a sex slave.
Yeah,
like
100%.
That is just a harsh reality of this time period. And I think that's why episode 11 stands out against this plot line that gets reused, because the artistry of this particular episode. There's something I noticed very quickly early on is the lack of music.
Yes.
So whenever we're looking at, because like it's what, Gamblers and what was it called?
Gamblers and Gallantry.
Yeah, Gamblers and Gallantry. And with the gambling sections, there's loud music. There's like the bouncy soundtrack that we associate with Samurai Champloo, right?
Yeah.
With this episode, whenever we're with Jin and Natsuha, I believe her like taken name is Natsuha, it's just rain. There's no music. It's just the two of them talking with the soundtrack being like heavy rain. And I think this works incredibly well to capture the incredibly complex like dynamics that we're seeing, you know, like, and this is a heavy story to tell, and it's a fucking problematic one as well. There is a contingent of men who do go to sex workers who dream of saving them from sex work in the modern period. Yeah. In this context, it makes sense, yes, why Jin would want to save her. If you told a modern version, this might not be I wouldn't resonate with it probably so hard. This is a really interesting story, and there's one little tease that I really liked in the very end of the show. I don't know if you picked this up. So when they go their separate ways, we see the different paths they're taking, right?
Yeah, we do.
What did you notice about Jin's path?
Jin's path looked very much like the place where this happened. Like, he was
temples.
He was heading.
Look, there was Buddhist and Shinto symbology everywhere, which made me think that he's heading towards the divorce temple.
Yeah,
which is that's I've seen. I actually, I'm not going to claim that I found that myself. I was looking up details about something and I saw it on the wiki page and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Again, it's a hypothesis. It's a headcanon. It couldn't be. It might not be true. It might just be, you know, Jin's going to a life of solitude.
But Mugen and Jin both find their perfect partner on this adventure. And both of them do end up finding them, at least in my own headcanon, as it were, because let's be honest, Mugen's partner is a ninja. A state ninja. So if she wants to find someone, she'll fucking find someone, and so she'll find him, and she'll marry him. Definitely, he won't say no to that. But what I think is interesting is that I just realized it now. Both of us picked our favorite episode as the romantic involvement of the two main male characters. Both of our favorite episodes were when our male protagonists met their opposite number, which I think is a poignant thing about Samurai Champloo, is just how well it handles that sort of idea. Because you don't really see Fu run into that. Fu feels that way about Jin. It's quite obvious. It's sort of pushed that way all through the show, and so she gets quite jealous in episode 11, and it's quite open about it. But the fact that she and Mugen also decide to back him up when shit goes south was also a great a great moment. The fact that Mugen didn't... That's the thing about Mugen. Like, he's supposed to not care, but the moment Jin ends up knee-deep in shit, he just jumps straight in. Without even thinking about it.
As well. Mugen's the same, despite all his aspersions to hating Jin.
Like, they jump into each other's fights all the time without even thinking about it. And it's a great piece of subtext you see throughout the show. And that leads into, like, discussions about my other favorite episodes. So episode 15 was really, really interesting because, you know, that's the one where Mugen meets the guy who's just like him. No, excuse me. That's episode 10. That's the one before this one, where he meets the big villain who's just like him. The guy who went to China. Who uses like basically force powers. Like,
it never comes up again.
Never comes up again,
despite the fact that it becomes fairly evident that that Mugen can do it too.
Yeah, Mugen and this guy both have fucking Naruto powers, and they just sort of never have it happen again. But there was that one.
Although, there is a fun reading you could do with that, I guess, which is that, like, if you think about it, that fight is only observed by 2 people, right?
Yeah.
It's just observed by Mugen and, what was it, Soryu, I think?
Yeah. Shoryu.
Shoryu, yeah. So it's just the 2 of them watching. This is very well could be Mugen telling the story to Jin and Fu and embellishing details. Like, it very well could be him playing it up.
You see, this is the thing. This show just doesn't stop going, like, once it gets going, right? Because I've noticed that...
and it stops in episode 22. And like, I hate it.
Well, this is the thing. I thought that episode was funny as shit, but... Because...
I was just like... Please, can we just keep going with the plot? And then episode 23 happened. I was like, never mind. This is brilliant.
This is the thing, right? You've got show episodes that really stood out. And let's be honest, like, about... Like... Really? It goes from about episode 11 onward. It just sort of... Every episode's a banger, just about.
Yeah, there's episodes that, like, I sort of were just like meh, like sometimes occasionally just like this is like fine.
So
like, you know,
Misguided Miscreants, like Mugen's backstory, where he meets the pirates, and they have this big build up about his backstory, and they go on a mission to like take out a government gold ship. I really liked the twist at the end of part 2, where it turns out that his little sister, quotation marks, was manipulating her big brother, and that all of that was just for nothing, and then Mugen kills the dude, like, flat out. Dude, that was the coldest fucking moment in the whole show.
That was fucking crazy.
He kills her husband, and then she's like, kill me too, and he just walks straight past her. Doesn't even acknowledge it. Doesn't say a word.
Because he knows, yeah, I like it because he knows that the biggest punishment for her is to be alone. Because she can't live alone by herself, right?
Yeah,
and that, therefore, he just abandons her. And that's why she's like, just kill me. And he's like, nope.
That was cold as fuck, though. It was just so cold. The way he just kept... Like, he didn't even have an expression on his face. Mugen always looks angry or annoyed or sad or even happy. Like, he's a very expressive guy. That is the only time in the show where he really has a stone face. When nothing, no expression, nothing. Absolutely nothing. He just has a
Also, I love that he's like
face.
he's not even full mode Mugen there. Like, he's literally like limping along. He's barely like holding it together.
Yeah.
Like he is barely conscious, and he's just like and dead. Okay, keep moving.
Yeah, like, just kills him. Like, he doesn't even think about it. And Gene kills the big bad of the double episode, like, as we said, in like one swipe. He just kills him. Cut out. It's just that whole episode was just great. Like the Mugen death fake out, which we knew wasn't going to be the case because we've still got like another half the other half of the show still to run, so he's obviously not dead. But it's just incredible. Like holy shit, episode 14 was great. Then
can we just, before we move on from just talking about this little bit section here, can we just talk about how great that song was, the Ryukyu song?
Yeah,
it was sung.
It was
fucking
good.
Phenomenal. Really good.
It was
really
great.
creepy, really that like very haunting energy to it. Loved that shit. That was awesome.
Again, that leads into the next
soundtrack
part.
here, you know, brilliant. That
leads into the next part, Lullabies of a Lost Verse with Akuru, the Ainu character. Like again, those two episodes were just incredible. Like fucking incredible. Again, fight through the woods, all that sort of jazz. Absolutely nuts. And then, like, talking about another one of the good episodes was when we talk about... Actually, no, I'll save that for when we talk about the episode that you really want to yell about. But the War of Words, where they have the graffiti competition at Hiroshima Castle, of all places. It's just... It's just incredible. And then, of course, you have Unholy Union, which is the episode where we first run into the Christians and Christian persecution in Japan, which is a really interesting part. But before we go any further on that, it's a good thing that you mentioned the soundtrack. I want to talk about the soundtrack, at least to some extent. And I'm going to say my entire thought process on the Samurai Champloo soundtrack in a single sentence. If we weren't in the world of streaming, I would buy that CD. I would actually buy this. I would actually buy this soundtrack. That's my review of Samurai Champloo's soundtrack. That's it. I would buy it. You can listen to this soundtrack on YouTube, and it can be background music, or you can, like, the OP. The OP is such an iconic opening. Just the... Oh!
Here, let me buy it for you for 131 for $31 US tax.
Fucking hell. Samurai Champloo's OST is...
It's good. It's great. It's phenomenal. I like this is why I mean, like what is there to say about it? Oh, it's very tonally appropriate throughout the episodes. It creates flair that you don't see in other episodes because it incorporates hip hop in a way that like most Japanese directors couldn't hope to do in nearly as natural a way. It can make hip hop both aggressive and touching at the same time, or even, you know, create completely dynamic like motion.
Talking about this show from that angle, like, you know what it in some parts of this show, it is like, you know, like back in the old days, British bands used to do those rock operas, like Tommy from The Who, for example. This is like with the exception of Hamilton, right? I think this is like the only sort of rock opera equivalent for hip hop I've ever heard. Because some moments in Samurai Champloo are just made by the hip-hop soundtrack. They just are. Especially the opening is such a vibe. It's such an old-school 90s hip-hop vibe, which I absolutely adore. But the reason I'm talking about music, because I want to talk about my runner-up for favorite episodes, which is a two-parter, which is, excuse me, Elegy of Entrapment. Which is when they find a blind woman who... just, oh, the traditional Japanese music she opens with. Holy shit. Whoever her voice actress was in the Japanese sub, just fucking wow.
Fucking great. It was phenomenal. It was
wow.
So good.
Her singing voice, good. like the I love traditional Japanese music. I really do. And she just, oh. But the fact that we got this character, a blind woman who uses her accentuated senses to fight. Like, it's not a new concept. Like The blind,
I mean, it might have been, actually, that's a good point. That might have been a fairly fresh concept in Japan at the time.
like the blind warrior monk though is like pretty old school. Like I would say it might not have been actually.
Yeah, like at the time, I feel like it probably shook things up. I feel like these things come in like waves. Like we get periods where suddenly like X disabled person, but they're really good at something, becomes like really popular. Like with Gangster, it was deaf guy, but he's kick ass. Like in combat.
And let's be honest, like a silent voice really did the sort of like she was fantastic in a lot of things that she did because her other senses weren't as strong. Her other senses were heightened by the fact that she couldn't hear, right? And this one takes the blind angle. She's blind, but she has no problems navigating around. She just keeps up the appearance of a blind woman, and she hates being pitied, right? And she really hates being pitied because she knows it's a lie. But the fact that this woman just kicks so much ass, like she beats both the main characters without a second. She fucking schools them.
She schooled Jin. Jin had to go to rehab with not Masashi Miyamoto.
Yeah,
and she beats
Mugen twice.
She beats Mugen. First time he gets his shit kicked in. He's like, "Come back, baby, let's do it again." And she kicks his ass again, and she only loses because she chooses to. That shit is awesome. That shit is so fucking cool, man. Like, I love it. I love that shit. It's so great. It's such a like genuinely heart-rending moment because she goes out on her terms.
And
it's not at someone else's hands. She literally forces him to kill her, basically.
And what I really love about this one too, what I really, really love about it, is Mugen's response. Mugen is angry that she didn't kill him. Because he's enraged that she didn't kill him because, you know, he has been searching in his way to atone for his crimes. He's been searching for a decent opponent to give him an honorable death in battle. Same way that Genie is looking for one. He's doing the same thing. And yet, when he finally meets someone who's better than he is, she doesn't want to kill him because she likes him. Sarah makes it very clear from the start of the episode where they meet when she meets the cast that she really likes Mugen. She really, really likes Mugen, and she just doesn't want to kill him.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to talk about this episode specifically because this is my runner-up for favorite because of Sarah the character. She is like this show does weekly characters right. It really does. Like it's a hard show to binge.
Those characters are never coming back.
Yeah, like it's a hard. I will say it's. I'll talk about it a bit later, but it's the one fault I have with this show because of the way that this show does things in this manner. It's a very hard show to binge until you get much later on in the show. It's a slog at first, a little bit. It's a little bit of a slog at first, but once it gets going, it gets going. But the reason I bring this up...
The ball starts rolling.
And the reason I bring it up is twofold. One, because you need to know that going in if you haven't seen it, when we've just spoiled half the good shit about it. But if, like, you've obviously seen it.
Yeah.
But if you do want to watch it again and remind yourself about how great this piece of art was, go do it. The second is because the episode after it is episode 22, and Ivy wants to yell.
Alright. Look. I get what they were going for. I get what they were going for here, and I understand it. But for fuck's sake, guys, come on! Nah.
An entire episode that they hallucinate happening because they OD'd on shrooms. I thought it was fucking hilarious, person.
Just the ending being a meteor hitting the fucking and wiping everything.
I was tripping balls that episode. I wasn't sure what was happening. Right? Like, the fact is, you think that Fu hasn't eaten any mushrooms, but it's obvious that she has, right?
Yeah, but like in a smaller dose, which is why it takes longer for her to start seeing the crazy shit.
They talk about how expensive the mushrooms are, and she's wondering why they are. It's like, oh, this is why. It's like, It's like with that show Hell of a Boss. It's like, you Mugen are tripping balls. Like, the moment when Homie like just reattaches his arm, and the fact they're talking about the shogunate before the Minamoto shogunate, like forget the fucking Tokugawa shogunate. Like this is the guy 2 shoguns before, right? They're like, you haven't been here for 3 years, you've been here for 300. Like, what? Fuck off. I'm like, yep, 100%. Like, Jesus Christ. It's like this whole episode, and this is the same one as this is. The reason why this makes me giggle is because it's the follow-up to another episode where they get through the Edo they get through the Edo checkpoint to enter the rest of Western Japan, because the entire guardhouse, they set a field of fucking marijuana on fire, and it gets
like
the
an approximate substance.
Yeah, basically they've got Sweet Mary Jane. They set the whole fucking field on fire, and it gets the entire region stoned. So they literally just walk through. But I don't know what this weed was laced with, because they were having some trippy shit. Like,
they fucked. Everyone fucked.
Everyone fucked, and it was like they also hallucinated, and like, man, like. No substance abuse that I've ever partaken in ever that I would never do has ever resulted in something like that, hypothetically. In a purely hypothetical self-defense situation where I consumed those substances. But in all seriousness, like, the fact that drugs play such a crucial... Like, there is some form of drug consumption going on in at least 30 to 40% of this show. There's opium, there's weed, there's like... Wow. Like... And the reason why I sort of bring that up as well is because that's a big fucking deal in Japan. That is a big deal. Like, Japan, like, I mean...
The relation to drug court. I mean, the fact that, like, if you're in a band, you can get, like, blacklisted for, like, marijuana use.
Mm-hmm. In one of my videos, which you can watch, which is Japan has a problem and anime will solve it, there's an entire section where I talk about prison in Japan and how it runs and the court system. The music used in that part of the video is from a musician who was convicted of marijuana possession in Japan. He was sentenced to something like 10 years. He had a joint, for Christ's sake, and he got 10 years for it.
It's only a step down from the Singapore stuff. With the
yeah, but Singapore,
mandatory...
they hang you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, it's a step down from that, but that's not much saying much.
Look, all I'm going to say is when you make old mate Kamala Harris's freaking marijuana sentencing look rough, I'm telling you, bro.
Look light,
rather. Look light. Yeah, that's the words. Like, man, Japan thinks Kamala's a pussy when it comes to marijuana sentencing. Like, fuck. But yeah, but it's just amazing how much drugs are in this show. But you're the baseball expert, so do you want to talk about episode 23? Because I want to talk about episode 23, but you go first. You do that, because Jesus.
The greatest baseball game that never happened.
You know, if it did happen, you know what? Commodore Perry would have had less to bitch about in 1853 rather, when he showed up. But actually, fun fact, this episode actually establishes when this takes place. It's in the mid-1750s is when this show takes place, because they say 100 years later, Commodore Matthew Perry. So, man, the 1750s were... Man, 1750s Japan, I know it's not historical, but if 1750s Japan is like this, sign me the fuck up, bro. Like, for real. But,
fucking bopping.
Bopping. Absolute banging time. But go ahead, Ivy. Let's talk about it.
Okay, let's talk about baseball before I think we start wrapping things up. I guess this is just like, I think one of the moments where the show shows off its sense of... Because this episode is just very funny. The use of, like, English here, fucking hilarious. Like, all of the jokes about, like, you know, the Americans... Like, I've got, like, quotes written down. God help us, this isn't baseball. This is madness, said in English. And the Americans went home with a profound fear of Japanese people. They didn't return to these shores until the arrival of Commodore Perry in 1853. let's time to teach these savages how we do things. Fantastic. That's the mystical Orient for you. Like,
dude.
And the funniest part is that they do a like honest to God baseball montage, and the narrative is like, however, this part is boring, so I'll skip over it.
Dude, one thing I will say is that whole section in the English dub was so fucking wild. Because the English dub kept the Japanese English for it, right? They kept the English for it. So the rest of the cast is speaking perfect English, but then you've got broken English for the Americans. But it goes even further, right? They also kept the English component for when the secret policeman is trying to break into the American ship. And he's like,
oh, dude,
it's like, oh, yes, I am American sailor. It's just fucking
and like,
wow,
there
bro.
is actually like voice actors in there who have a very high degree of fluency in the Japanese like side of things. Like when they speak English, it's really fucking good. Especially on like when we're talking about the level that we usually get in Japanese media, which is really, really low. Which is always really funny when you get characters who are supposedly like canonically fluent in a language and that they speak real rough English. It's like, okay. The thing that fucking took me out though was when they were like, there's an edict that says we can't interact with you, please leave. We can't trade with you. The Shogun will fuck us if we do, please leave. And the American responds by saying, fuck you, do it or we'll kill you. And I think there's never been a more accurate summary of gunboat diplomacy.
Like, their depiction of the Americans in this show might piss off some Americans, but quite frankly, it is the most accurate portrayal of colonialism ever. It's literally the Westerners show up and are like, buy our shit or we kill you. It's literally what they're doing. But yeah, so that episode, Baseball Blues, first point, lampooning American colonialism, based. Okay? Second, the fact that the baseball game just turns into a battle royale and Mugen's a gangster picture. Like
the shit where they took out the goddamn picture with the broken baseball bat.
The fact that they actually die, the characters canonically die and then come back to life. They're buried in shit alongside the field. Like, it's great. I loved how they did it. As I said earlier, this here, part 3, Fu be looking like a snack in this episode.
Again, she's 15 years old.
Yeah, but Fu do be looking like a snack in this episode.
Fuck you, Japan.
And it's Japan anime. Goddamn. Like, but and finally, of course, look. Honestly, this is my candidate for the funniest episode in the show. Like this really was hilarious. Like actual proper hilarious. And it's lampooning but I think what I really like about it is that it's very self-aware. Like you were saying before, it's very self-aware comedy, right?
Yeah.
Because they make sure for as much shit as they give the Americans, they also make as much fun of the Japanese throughout the whole show.
They're making fun of the Shogun. They're making fun of the political system. They have like reference to Edo being a peaceful time while the events of the series are happening. Like, like people are like, yeah, we're in an unprecedented era of peace 5 minutes after Mugen just finished like cutting like 8 people in half.
Dude, seriously? I mean, fight scenes in this anime, peak quality, but they don't exactly lend themselves to discussing peace, really, because that leads us on to the final part of the show, which is, of course, the end, where Fu finally meets the Sunflower Samurai, who was a member of the Christian Rebellion. And the show's handling of Christian persecution in Japan was quite good. I'll say that up front.
Pretty funny. It's pretty funny as well.
It was pretty funny because I love the fact
because even Christian persecution doesn't get a break.
No.
Even the Christians are like, even the Christians have their weird cult leader.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of the fact that like Japanese Christians.
What I love about it is they very very specifically show that the Japanese Christians are genuinely being persecuted and they're being killed against what they should be. They're being treated like trash. And it's very sympathetic towards them, but the leadership of the Christians, holy shit. They were doing like massive satire goggles, right? It had in bold, in quotation marks, "We definitely aren't talking about the Catholic Church, we swear." Like, they really were laying it on thick regarding attacking Christian institutions. And I think, honestly, as someone who does that, and as a guy who was forced through Catholic school, can confirm, fuck all of that. But, like, seriously, like, this show handled that well, but when it gets to the end, I can't think, with the exception of one of the bangers that came out this year, Vivi Fluorite Ice Song, this is the best ending to an anime I've seen in years. And I know it's an old show, and it's a rewatch. But I honestly think this is probably one of the best endings I've seen in a while. I really loved how this show ended. Like, the ending, mint for me. So
the ending I really like. I did like the ending. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, it's a hard one because, like, on one hand I really liked it. On the other hand, I feel like if it was a sweet ending, ape shit and been like, this is incredible. I'm sad that they did, but they didn't, and blah blah blah. But yeah, I really enjoyed the ending too. I feel pretty comfy with what I'm gonna rate it, which I think we're getting to that sort of point here. We've talked about all this shit through.
Yep. I'm gonna say I love the ending. I like how they handled it. I also really loved the fight scenes especially. But I was gonna say what I was saying to you before off stream, and I'm gonna put it out here for the peeps in the chat. The one criticism I have about the ending to Samurai Champloo is, like, I had a CinemaSins gong going off in my head every 5 minutes in the last 2 episodes, and it was the same CinemaSins gag. Like, every 5 seconds during the fight scenes, ding, they survived this. Ding, they survived this. Ding, they survive. Like, Mugen gets blown up, shot, stabbed. Like, he's got 15, like, major puncture wounds. He's lost about 3/4 of his blood supply. Like, and Gin, meanwhile, has had a massive, like, coronary artery fucking slice through, you know, like, he's had half of his internal organs should be hanging out and his arteries have been severed, and he gets shanked full on by the point of the katana straight through him. Like, all of this shit goes on and they both survive. I'm like, the fuck, you should both. I was expecting a Cowboy Bebop ending. I was expecting Fu to be the only survivor and for her to carry on with her life stoically after going on this grand adventure. I'm happy with the ending though. They all go their separate ways,
with the hopes that they one day
we'll meet again. Yeah, it's a good ending.
You know, sometimes all good things must come to an end. I don't like cliches, but that's a nice enough cliche.
And so we'll do the quick roundup. Animation still holds up to this day and is incredible. The fights especially. Yep. The fight scenes.
Yeah, the fights. There's not many series out there that can compete with the fight scene.
No, these are some of the best fight scenes you'll ever see, and the way they handle fights, especially period-specific fights, like, again, for me to go on a little tangent just before we end, it's like one of those things you see. Every anime you watch, you have these grand battles, except for one, that absolute classic, which I can't remember the name of, which you'll remind me of, that sword fight, which is, like, over in one hit. And he marries her at the end. But, you know that one. Besides that one, this one demonstrates katana fighting style very well in the fact that all these fights are over in like minutes. Like literally they're 2 or 3 slashes. Because that's what a katana's decided to do. It is the most efficient weapon system in that. Once you got someone who knows how to use it, there's none of this faffing about like you see in European martial arts where it's like parry, thrust, stab, swing. It's all that. No, katana it's a killing weapon and it will kill.
To be fair, with battlefields, a lot of the time it just ended up that you were beating an opponent to death with your sword. You were beating them to death because you'd like chipped the blade of your sword so much.
Yeah.
So you had to resort to beating their head in.
Like Samurai Champloo, the katanas are really well portrayed because they just like the fights are slash done. Like fight's over. And it captures that really well. Soundtrack, iconic. This goes up here.
No doubt there.
It is iconic. The Samurai Champloo soundtrack is iconic. Buy it on iTunes. If iTunes was still a thing, I would. It's worth it. It's worth paying for. And in the age of music streaming and music piracy, saying it's worth paying for speaks for itself. Okay. Major criticism. It's hard to. It's a slow burner. At the start, it's a slow burner, and it's very hard to binge. It only becomes bingeable after you hit just after the halfway point. You can only binge this show after you get to around episode 13. Episode 13, 14 is when you can start binging. You have to get you have to get through the first 12 to 14 episodes before you can really start going. It's sort of like as I said, like art house One Piece for the first half of the show. It really is. And yeah, so direction, it's Shinichiro Watanabe. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, you know what you're getting. It's gonna be a masterpiece. And yes, sound design on point.
Yeah, it's a bit simple. There's like, this isn't like
this isn't another.
Like,
this isn't another.
This isn't like us gushing about like the various like tiny sound effects, but there's like really nice range of sound effects here. The sound design's good. It's very solid. It captures the era. You feel like you're in the period.
Also, gotta give mad props for the ambience. The ambience is as I said, the style quotation marks of the show.
Episode 11.
Yeah, episode 11 banged. Yeah, and of course the other standard things like I don't know, story great, like
story, yeah, good. It's got like its ups and downs, but it flows, and I appreciate that. I think it fits this series. I feel like if this series was just like balls to the walls for 13 episode, I probably wouldn't have as high of opinion of it. It probably would wear me out. I'd probably suffer like fatigue from like over.
I feel like this show would have benefited from being sort of like one of those weird off-kilter Konosuba type things where it was like as long as it needs to be, so it would be like 16 episodes or something. I feel like it would have been better at that, but
cut a few of the fat out.
Yeah, but like on the whole, yeah. So really, I guess what we're saying is this is a classic, and it's a classic for a reason. If you like Cowboy Bebop, if you like, anime of this,
if you want to have fun and you're bored, watch this.
Yeah.
It's just fun. It's just fun. That's it.
It's a
you
fun
can
show.
Just watch an episode of this. Like, this is an anime where a lot of anime, you can't just watch a random episode. However, you can just pick up and be like, hey, I've watched Champloo before. I'm just going to watch episode fucking 10.
Yeah.
And you can watch episode 10.
Yeah, you can. You can just watch it. You can just pick it up and go. And it will work. And it's quite fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
Which then
let's do ratings.
Let's do ratings. All right. So who wants to go first? I suppose
I'm not going to do the breakdown this week. I'm just going to give it a simple, straightforward 85. It's not quite into the 90s because it's got fat. There's a few things here and there that like I felt like slowed down the pacing, blah blah blah. It wasn't always at its best. I didn't like certain episodes, that sort of thing. But across the board, great character writing, great backgrounds, great environment, great world building, great story, blah 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 blah. It's an 85, nice and steady.
Yep, I agree with Ivy here. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. I think. Is it as good as Cowboy Bebop, which is the other major comparison people make? I would say no. But Again,
I would say at its best, it's better than Cowboy Bebop, but when it's not as good as Cowboy
yeah,
Bebop.
that I would actually say, yeah, like individual episodes. There are some individual episodes here that if you stand them on their own and versus, like Samurai Champloo, actually, that's a good way of putting it. Some of the episodes of Samurai Champloo, they stand out as like some of the best single episodes in anime, period. I don't. That's a big claim, but I would stand by it.
I wouldn't go quite that far, but I would say that they are like genuinely brilliant standalone episodes.
Yeah, not many anime get standalone episodes right, but I think this one does.
How often you get the Monster of the Week formula for anime?
Like, yeah, you do, but like, let's be honest, I've never had an episode of, say, JoJo, which does Monster of the Week. I've never had an episode of JoJo hit me like a standalone episode of Samurai Champloo, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Shonen is at a disadvantage here because that's really what it is. It's just it's a Shonen adventure show with a concentrated plot budget, if that makes sense, with a concentrated focus. But anyway, we'll just go around in circles. So, it's an 8 from me. It's an 85 from Ivy. So there we go. That Samurai Champloo. I mean, as we've been saying over and over for this whole podcast, you've basically been sitting here listening to us rant and argue about a show we don't really have anything profound to say about it because
there's not really.
Shut up! Go watch it.
Go watch it. First of all, go watch it. Then go find someone else smarter than the two of us because we're fucking dumbasses.
Yeah, and listen to them talk about it because, like, dude,
I'm sure that there's a film lit analysis out there that would fucking kick ass. Go deal with that.
Go watch that. Yeah, like this show bangs. All right, it's time for us to roll what we're subjecting ourselves to next.
Your turn to roll.
You know what? You know what's really funny? Even though I struggled to get through Samurai Champloo overall, we took a bit longer this time than to go through it. I found myself after I'd finished watching, I'm like, I really can't wait to roll another one because I really want to do something different. Even though I really do need to catch up with Slime. But I'll need to find time for that.
But that's a conversation for off the call.
Yeah. All right. Holy shit!
Oh no.
Oh my god! We rolled not one classic banger, but two!
Okay.
But we can't watch it because it's longer than our limit. Oh no.
Oh Jesus, what did we get? Though let's
I'm gonna drop this in the voice chat so if you will have angry reaction like me. It's longer than our 26 episode limit, so we can't watch it. But this is what we rolled. This is what we rolled. I'm depressed.
Oh,
I'm angry because
we didn't get Monster.
Oh no, Monster! It's so good.
It's so good.
I've also watched it recently, so
we have both watched it like fairly
but
recently.
Still,
yes.
Watch good. Monster. I have to roll again.
Let it
roll. Watch
Let
Monster.
It roll.
Watch
Let it roll. Let's keep
Monster.
going. Next one on the list.
Generate single random anime. Oh, that's better. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. 12 episodes.
Okay.
We are watching Endro in a world of adventurers and magic lies Gnarl Island. Every generation a demon lord rises to plague the land, and every generation a hero is born to subdue him. For countless centuries, the cycle has repeated with no end in sight. The latest hero, Julia Yusha Shaldetto, has almost completed her valiant campaign alongside her party members. And of course, they're going for a final battle against the demon lord. And, well, yeah, it's a plot. Okay, so they've been sent back in time. And
alright. Well,
this is what are the tags? The tags are comedy, fantasy, magic, slice of life, and Yuri. Bitches, let's go. It has an average rating of 6.8. It's trash. It's garbage. This is what we started this podcast for, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, it's going to be great. I'm excited. I'm going to crank out 3 episodes tonight and just see how bad it is. All right, well, Endro.
On that note, thank you all for listening because this
all 10 of
was
you.
Fun. Tune in next time to watch me scream about why does Japan keep making moe blob anime to make me mad.
Yeah, but you gotta admit, You know what? I like the design of the girl on the left of the title screen, like big diamond hammer. I'm about it. All right, no worries. Like cute fantasy moe blob comedy show with, I wonder how Yuri it's gonna get, but we will see. Okay.
I feel like it's gonna be a fucking lie.
Well, we'll
it's
see.
always a lie. I don't trust like that anymore.
All right.
So
yeah, it's been
until
fun.
next time. Until next time, may your beers be strong and your hair be straight. Wait, no,
Wait.
that's terrible.
That's terrible.
Your hair be curly.
You know what? May the odds be ever in your favor because they sure as fuck aren't in ours. Okay, that's been fun. Yeah, but we did get Monster on our first roll, so that doesn't count. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. This is Anime Roulette. I'm Pac-Man. This is Ivy.
I am
We fucking out. Dab.
Know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. There'll be time